You know, like you have built this identity. You know, you might be the party girl, the one that goes out all the time, that drinks the alcohol, that doesn't prep the food, that doesn't eat regular meals. And I think you need to, you know, look at the person or look at the woman that you want to become and ask yourself, you know, what do they do every single day? You know, what are the choices that they make? What are the habits that they have in place? And then it's doing those things for long enough that you actually become that person. You just have to ask yourself, am I happy being like this? You know, do I feel good? Do I feel stable? Do I sleep well? Do I have the body that I want? And, you know, it can be hard initially, I think, when you're making the changes, but you just have to go all in and decide. You decide that you want to do it, and then you make those choices every single day. I'm Kitty Bloomfield, co-founder of New Strength and Saturée, creator of pro-metabolic food supplements and seriously saturated skincare. And today I'm back with my co-founder and co-host, Craig McDonald. Welcome back, Craig.
Hi.
For another episode.
We've got Henry at the table here.
Being a pest.
Being a fucking pest.
Craig has a lot of love for Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a love-hate relationship.
Poor old Henry.
Poor old Henry.
I don't know, but anyone who's got a sausage dog probably will relate.
I'm in a Facebook page, the Gold Coast Dash Hound, whatever, and everyone says the same thing. They put up these pictures of them looking really cute, and they're like, oh, look how adorable he is, but he's really the spawn of Satan because he did this and this and this. And then all these people comment, and they're like, oh my God, mine does that too. They're an awful dog. They're so cute, though. I'm like, why would you buy a Dash Hound? Seriously. Anyway. That could be my off-topic rant podcast.
Yeah. Craig's weekly bloody rant.
Moving on.
No one cares, Craig.
No one cares.
Henry's very cute. Emma thinks so.
Yeah.
I think you're all right. See you next Tuesday. For being so mean to him. He's not mean to him. He's not really mean to him. He just, you know, he's the child that he doesn't love.
He just threw up in my office before because he ate the yogurt out of your bowl.
What was the yogurt? It was rice pudding.
Well, whatever it was, he comes into my office and throws up. Ah, he's so cute though. Fucking.
Anyway.
Okay. What are we talking about?
Yeah, so today's podcast, I guess what inspired this podcast is we often just talk about clients, don't we?
Oh, we sure do.
Always. Yeah. You know, like it's, you know, we're
some more than others.
But we're always, I think, you know, we just really want every woman who comes into our program to succeed.
Yes. And
feel good and achieve their goals, because it really does flow into so many other areas of your life. And I think, you know, myself, you, Vic, you know, Vic's been working for us now for over 3 years now. And, you know, the three of us are always looking for ways to improve, you know, how we deliver the coaching in our business, how we can improve things. You know, we've done this upgrade to our app now, which is so exciting. So Vic and Craig have been... Craig started building this app how long ago? Because you had this idea about, I wanted to build an app to make the coaching.
It was the end of 2018 when I first met with the app developers, and then
I remember I went with you.
Yeah. And then it started early.
God, so what's it now? So that's 4 years ago. That is insane to think about that. Lots of stress, everyone.
Yes, probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, to be honest.
Thank fuck. Vic took over about, I don't know, how long ago? 2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, well, she really took the forefront when we moved to this next
iteration.
Which started just over a year ago.
Because we did a web app first, didn't we?
Yeah, because it was essentially cost effective to build it that way. So, you know, you build as many stages of it as you can, because it's quite easy. And then, you know, now we move to the native app, which has got all the bells and whistles, but obviously the expense goes up a lot more. So, I mean, you know, if I had have known what I've known back then, I would have gone, fucking just build the native app like this from that. But
you only know, you know, like you go into these things with an idea and not really knowing, and then you learn along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Have no idea. You think it's all fairly straightforward. It's literally like learning 5 different languages. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a tough process, but you know, going through the whole process has really, because the app has continued to evolve based off what we're seeing from clients and their feedback and how they're responding to things and how the coaches can best interact with them and extract what they need out of them for them to do their jobs better. So it was built initially as a coach-centric app first, and now
to make the whole tracking process easier, right?
Correct. That's where it all started.
Yeah, we talk about tracking a lot, you know, and if you go back and listen to some of our other podcasts, so we track food, we track training, we track biofeedback markers, sleep, you know, digestion,
Steps.
mood, energy, steps, cycle issues, recovery from training, temperature and pulse. So, and you know, also the food tracker, I think too. So having one place where clients could check in, track everything, enter their weight, just to make it really easy. Because prior to that, we were using Google spreadsheets and
MyFitnessPal.
Yeah, which is a bit of a fuck around, really.
Stuff. Yeah, and look, it just wasn't a very efficient way to do the check-in process, or for the guys to give the best feedback they could, because you know, they were looking at a lot of different things. It didn't always give them the answers, and I wanted to have it all in one spot on one page, so they could just deliver the best coaching services possible. And that mentality has just evolved over time with what we want to see, and you know.
And then we obviously did it and launched it, and then we were like, okay. If because nearly half of our clients are from the US.
Yeah.
And of course the bloody US has a different metric system, which makes it so difficult.
Yeah. When we first brought it out, we were only working with people in Australia and a few people in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Do you know?
And
now that's expanded, so that's forced us to, you know.
Oh, because it was just frustrating, I think, and we get it. So then we decided, okay, well, let's invest more and build a mobile. Is that what you call mobile app? A native app, okay.
Yes.
Terminology, right. Yeah. So this was a year-long project, which Vic managed amazingly well. And we're just rolling out now into the business, which is so exciting. So it's got, you know, so much more functionality. It looks nicer. It's easier to use. The food tracker's better. It's got a barcode scanner in there.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like using MyFitnessPal or Chronometer. You know, it's very much based off that type of feel. But just with all of our data and all of our metrics. So it's really, really cool. And then obviously we've got some big plans coming up with what the next stage of the app is going to be, which I'm really excited about, but I'm not allowed to say anything.
That's right. Vic will listen.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's always just coming from a desire to want to continue to be better and continue to learn. And, you know, I get excited by going down and discovering something where you realise it's like, I've been doing this a long time, and then you just accept the fact that there's so much that you don't know. Yeah. But that actually really excites me, because like when I learn something new, I'm just like, oh, this is really cool. I could use this. I could do this, whatever. And I think from that point is kind of what we're going to talk about on the podcast today, just with.
We're talking about clients and looking at clients that it's successful in achieving their body and health goals. And we talk about this a lot, and to us it seems like there's 3 stages.
Yeah, which is basically you know something. Now, with the ever-evolving social media landscape, there's no shortage of information on any topic.
Which is quite confusing, actually, I think, for most women. Like a lot of women,
especially when it comes to nutrition and training and these things that we, you know, pride ourselves in being experts in. There's a lot of people talking, you know, certainly from a nutrition aspect, you know, how you should be doing things, what you shouldn't be eating, and what you should be eating, how you need to focus and how you need to be living. And it can be really, really overwhelming, you know, and a lot of people, we often hear people go, well, I know what to do, I've just got to do it, right? And it's just like, well, you probably don't know as much as you think, and you probably don't know the things that are actually going to move the needle for you.
Yeah, I think you know, if we talk about women in general, you know, the women that I chat to, they're very much like I once was. You know, I thought I knew a lot of things, you know, like fasting and, you know, starving myself and cutting calories and, you know, not eating sugar. And, you know, I thought that I knew how to be healthy, but was I really healthy? No, I was, you know, not sleeping through the night. I had shitty cycles. You know, my hair was falling out. You know, I'd lose my shit at the drop of a hat. Didn't have a sex drive, you know, so all these things are, I think, indicators of your overall general health. Yeah. So I didn't really actually know what to do. Yeah. get healthy and achieve my body composition goals in a healthy and sustainable way. Like in a sustainable way.
Sustainable way.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what do you define as healthy?
True.
You know, like people will look at, you know, some fitness model with their abs hanging out.
You can go, that's healthy.
Town, they're like, oh, look how healthy they are. And they're like, well, no, they probably don't have a menstrual cycle. Their hair's falling out. They're starving.
Yeah, all
they're
this stuff.
irritable.
Could just being lean doesn't mean that you're healthy, but also being lean, you know, Libby and I have talked about this a bit. You know, sometimes I think, you know, people, you'll see posts and you know, they'll say, oh, you can't have a flat stomach and be healthy. Well, you can.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's certain things that you need to do, and you
can be lean, you just can't be shredded.
Yeah, shredded.
Like, a big difference.
Yeah, probably what sub 15% body fat is
it's getting pretty
too lean. But above that, you know, like we've got women in our program that sit at a range of body fat levels and that have good health markers. So I think, you know, when I think about a healthy woman, I think, well, okay, you know, sleep 7 to 9 hours, you know, has good quality sleep most nights, unless, you know, shit will happen, you'll have a bad sleep. You know, pretty regular and asymptomatic menstrual cycle, you know, no PMS, you know, no really bad menopausal or perimenopausal symptoms, you know, pretty good digestion, you know, shits every day, at least once a day, has a full bowel movement, pretty good balanced energy, you know, wants to bang their partner.
It's pretty solid.
You know, healthy looking skin, you know, hair's not falling out. You know, all these things, I think, you know, warm hands and feet. You're not freezing all the time. I always found, you know, when I was dieting, my hands were freezing all the time.
Yes.
You know, I think these things, you know, you're pretty resilient to stress.
Yep.
You know, you can build that resiliency and you don't have one stressful thing happen and you just fucked, basically. You know, you don't get sick all the time. So I think these are good indicators.
Yep.
And like we said, like I don't think just looking at someone's body fat is necessarily...
No, it's
whether they're healthy or not healthy, because like we said, there's
only one aspect.
Yeah, in our program that sit at 18% body fat or 17% body fat, and then there's women at 25%, all have good health markers.
Yep.
Anyway, we got sidetracked. We digress.
But basically, what we're talking about there is that, you know, a lot of people will know different things pertaining to nutrition and training, whatever. And if you've been following us for a while, you kind of understand all those things that Kitty just spoke about are the things that we value the most in terms of what we define as optimal health, right? Or all of those things working really, really well. So stage one is essentially knowing something, right? You know it, you know what it is.
Yeah, so women come into our program,
the
they start to educate themselves. Yeah. They understand, okay, this is what I have to actually do to get the result that I want.
Yeah, right. So that's the second stage, which is actually doing it. Right? So that requires... prioritization. It requires potentially having hard conversations with your partner and people around you. It requires understanding your weekly schedule in terms of things that you've got and where you need to do things like food prep or your training, or, you know, depending on what your goals are. There's a process that you have to do in order to accumulate enough wins over time to start seeing those results, right? So first stage is knowing. Second stage is doing the thing, and then doing the thing for long enough to then get to stage 3, which is where you become the thing.
It's that new identity, like really...
it's just who you are, right? Yeah. You know, like, you know, I mean, there's plenty of examples. Like for me, I personally don't drink alcohol anymore. Not that I wouldn't say that I have a particular thing against alcohol. I probably do it a little bit, but not in the way that anyone thinks. It's just like, if I really wanted to have a drink, I could, you know. Maybe when we get married, you know, I might have a
scotch,
glass of champagne, or, you know, whatever. Something like
you don't have to, though.
I don't have to, no.
Because I will be having one.
Of course you
obviously
will. Probably 10. But the thing is, it's like, you know, when I was younger, I used to do all those sort of things, and it was fine. But then the more I went on, the more I started to understand and learn and knew how it affected me. I just realised for what I want and what I value, that's just not a part of the equation for me. It doesn't provide me with anything beneficial in any way. So I just don't do it. So I've become this version of myself that I envisage by doing all the little things every day that are going to get me to that goal. But the more you do it over time, the more it just changes how you do things fundamentally to the point where it becomes effortless, right? They'll be like, oh, you want to have a drink? No, thanks. Oh, you don't drink? Why don't you drink? Oh, I'm like, just don't drink. Yeah. Oh, why don't you just have one? No, I'm fine. But I don't get emotional about it. Some people get really defensive. I'm like, no, I'm just fine.
It is interesting.
You have one for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just not a thing because this is just who I am.
Yeah, which
right?
is, I think I've shifted my identity in the last, however many years. I was that, I'm writing this post next week about, 9 things I wish I could go back and tell my 19-year-old self about life, about training, about nutrition. And I just selected these photos from the last, pretty much from school. There's a photo from school, right over the last 20 years. And all of them, I'm fucking pissed.
Yep.
Except the one at school. But I did used to get pissed at school. Pretty much. On the weekends, had huge parties at my parents' house. Oh my God, my poor parents, they'd go away and I'd break into the house and have parties. But, I guess I met you and, you had a good effect on me, and I got into training and we started this business, and over the years, I think I've just gradually I drunk less and less and less and less, where I just very infrequently drink now. But there are times when it's like the old party girl kitty identity slips back in, and like have been talking about the last 12 weeks, or would be, I've been good for 2 weeks now, and it's not like I get shit faced, but just having those few drinks, too frequently, not prioritizing my sleep, a lot of socializing, more socializing than I would do, which probably would be fine if our workload wasn't so big and I didn't want to, hit my numbers in the gym and make progress in training. So, I just ended up really tired and felt really shit, and just, I was like, this isn't who I am. This isn't who I want to be. Yeah. I feel so much better when and I'm not saying I'm never going to drink again, because of course I'm going to drink, but I just need to not let it be as frequent as it was, and not, have so many late nights. Yeah. And, this person that I've become, I enjoy that. I've been consistent now for 2 full weeks. I've been eating all my food, tracking accurately, hitting my numbers in my training. I've been prioritizing sleep, and I feel like $1 million. Yeah. And so I went to see some friends. We caught up 20 years. Yep. Yeah. These were people I went to uni with, and we had a great catch up, and they drank a bottle of wine. Mm-hmm. And he asked me, quite a few times, sure, I don't want to drink. I was like, no, I'm good. And it was very easy for me to say no, because once I decide that I'm not doing something, I'm like, that's it. And I think though, in those moments, if you think, oh God, I want to drink, or, you want to make a choice that is really in alignment with the old identity, I always just stop myself and think, how do I want to feel tomorrow? Yep. Is this decision in alignment with the person that I want to be, and I, in that moment, think about, okay, I'll have this drink. Yeah, it'll be fun in the moment, and I'll feel a bit tipsy, and I'll probably, feel like I'm a bit more connected to them because they're having a drink too. But then I'll come home and I'll probably want to eat some shit, and then I won't sleep very well, and then I'll get up in the morning and my training will be shit, and I'll be dragging my ass through the day, and that makes me make the decision not to have the drink. Again, I'm not saying I'm never going to drink again, but just in that circumstance, I wasn't going to. And I think, it does really come down to those micro decisions every day, every week, that will help you become that person. Yeah. Because we see a lot of women in our program. It's just an example. So they'll come in, they might do the coaching for a while, they'll get some good results. Even Mel was telling me about this, actually, a client last week that she's been working with for a while, and she hasn't really become that person yet, because she keeps going, oh, I just want to go back and do this. I'm just going to slide back, and I get a bit complacent, and the old identity creeps in. And we see it a lot with women in our program, because unless you truly become that person, it's not to say, like me, like I've, let's just use the term, fall off the fucking wagon a little bit. Doesn't mean that you're never going to, have some drinks again or whatever. I just think, though, if you don't fully become that person, it's just easy just to slip back. Yeah. Slip back into the old habits.
Well, for most people, this is years and years and years of habit building. And the thing that no one really wants to take, not always, but in a lot of times take full ownership around, is that you are a reflection of your habits and everything that you've been doing for X amount of years. So if you're in a pretty poor spot in terms of how you feel, how you visually look, a lot of those biofeedback markers, all those things are really poor. Well, that all of that's just a reflection of what you've been doing. And for a lot of people, and I know it's hard to just make this big switch, and it's got to be gradual. And if you take the gradual approach, that's got to be relative to you, and you've just got to accept that when you take a gradual approach,
the results are also gradual, which is totally fine.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
You just need to, I think, have realistic expectations. You can't go, I'm going to take the gradual approach, but I want to fucking look like this and have healed all my issues and fixed my years of restrictive dieting and dysfunction. So I think it's about
and one of those things that kind of comes up in that regard, where they're like, well, you're wanting me to do all these sort of things, but I still want to do this on a Thursday night with my friends, or I still want to go out and eat out in restaurants and whatever. And then on this day we have something at work and we go to, whatever it is. And it's just like, if I follow what you're telling me to do 100%, I'm probably not going to be able to do any of those things. And that feels really restrictive to me. And, a lot of that time there's this misconception where they're like, well, I thought I was coming into your program to learn how to have a sustainable approach, and that doesn't feel very sustainable. And it's like, hold on, you've completely got your fucking wires crossed here, because what's actually happening is all of the things that you have been doing that you mentioned just then that you want to continue to do are a big reason why you're in the situation that you're in. You were always going to have to give up some of those things to really move the needle and put a big dent in what you're doing. And the reality is, when it comes to balance, you've had enough balance for
you've
X
been
amount of
unbalanced.
years.
You've been too much the other way.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
You've been too far. And it's just like all of that is now what you have right now. So it's just like, look, you're going to have to go a little bit further the other way. And like I said, have some of those hard conversations and start saying no and sort of things. Because if you just don't go all in and make those big changes, the weeks will drag on. And then by the end, it's like, I haven't really made much change. I'm like, it's because you've done fuck all. And a lot of the time I have to remind people, they're like, yeah, but I've been in your program, I've paid for this, and I'm doing this, and I'm not seeing the results. And I'm like, you've been in the program, I agree, but it doesn't mean you've actually been following the program to the letter of what your coach has been telling you to do.
Which is also fine. Like we said, I think that's fine,
that's okay.
But you have to be realistic about what you can actually achieve.
And it's just, we're on that point. If you've only seen a small result, it generally just means you've only made a small change. There has to be a reflection point and kind of go, well, what are the things, how well am I actually prepping and tracking my food? How well am I actually executing my training? Am I uploading my videos? Am I actually being proactive and asking my coach enough questions around how to do things a bit better? Like, am I actually taking this, or is it just purely a reactive approach? Coach says this, I'll do this to what I believe is good enough. And then when the result isn't exponential, it's then, I'm going to be a bit annoyed about that. Right. And I think, and look, I'm not saying all this to have a dig at anyone. A lot of this time it's a case of you don't know what you don't know. So people's perception of, I just need to do this and this will be enough. And it's just like, you can do that for a long enough, and then when you realize it's not working or you're not getting a result, it's just like, well, your perception of what you believe should be good enough is way below our standard of what you should be doing. And there has to be some sort of compromise there where you start chipping away and kind of come more to what we're saying, because these are the things that are actually going to move the needle for you.
But I think, again, it comes back to that identity change. Like, you have built this identity. You might be the party girl, the one that goes out all the time, that drinks the alcohol, that doesn't prep the food, that doesn't eat regular meals. And I think you need to, look at the person or look at the woman that you want to become and ask yourself, what do they do every single day? What are the choices that they make? What are the habits that they have in place?
Yes.
And then it's doing those things for long enough that you actually become that person. So be the person that inspires you. That was one of our, I don't know, the shit that we had on a wall at our gym,
Yeah.
which is true. And, I guess you just have to ask yourself, like, I love drinking. I love partying. Oh God, I used to love to take drugs. And I'm not saying I'll never drink again or, take mushies or whatever. I just think that you just have to ask yourself, am I happy being like this? Do I feel good? Do I feel stable? Do I sleep well? Do I have the body that I want? And, it can be hard initially, I think, when you're making the changes, but you just have to go all in and decide. You decide that you want to do it, And then you make those choices every single day. And,
Yes.
you know, you can just see the difference in the women that do it and have made that conscious decision that this is what they want. Doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you need to be perfect. You absolutely don't need to be perfect. It's consistent, imperfect action. But you really do have to change your identity. And I think, you know, like how you speak to yourself is important. I recorded a great podcast on Mel with that, you know. You just have to be, and I think one of the valuable things about coaching, and why I've always invested in coaching, you've invested in coaching, is I think, you know, it's like it's external accountability turning into an internal habit. And so, like, I always use this example with clients. So, you know, most of the women we have in our program have kids. I'm like, so did you, when your kids were young and you're trying to teach them how to brush their bloody teeth, did you have to ask them to brush their teeth every day? Yes, yep. And now that they're older, do they just brush their teeth without you even asking? And they're like, yep. I said, well, that's an example of external accountability turning into internal habit. So that's the value of coaching, is I think initially when it's difficult and you're really trying hard to change this identity, it's so valuable to have someone there to not only make the path easier, I think, and show you how to get there quicker, but it's that accountability. Yes. Because it's easy not to show up for yourself. It's easy to go, well, I'm just not going to train this week, or I'm not going to do my food prep. But when you know you have to check in with someone, and then you do this for long enough and you start to see results and you feel better, and you can see this new person, you're evolving and you're feeling better and you're sleeping better and you're losing body fat. Eventually you just become that person. You do it without the accountability. And I think you're able to, when you know, like me, fall off the fucking wagon, you can pull yourself back because you're like, this is the person that I want to be. You know, what are the things that I need to do again to get back to that? So for me, it was just planning, prepping the food, you know, cutting back on the bit of the social events. Like, we've had a few really quiet weekends and it's been amazing. I feel so recharged. You know, really prioritizing our sleep, you know, getting back into, like, you know, and my training's been better just because I've had more sleep and consistency with the food. And it hasn't taken long and I feel amazing, you know. Cycles back on track, no sore boobs after ovulation. You know, these are all just indicators to me that what I'm doing is working, you know, which I already know it fucking works. I just have to do it. So, you know, it's and you'll become this new person. Then you'll be at the times that you go off track, you'll pull yourself back. You'll pull yourself back.
You know exactly what you need to do. And because you've done it before and know what that result feels like when you do everything right, you know, you're just like, oh, I'm going to prioritize all the things I need to do to get back to that, you know, but it becomes effortless, you know, it really does. It's just, you see it, you're like, oh, this is just what it is. I just need to do this, you know, and I think that is very freeing. And I think a lot of people never get to experience that because if you don't go in and you actually, you know, start to feel better and you do it for long enough and then you have you know, like you've had a few weeks where you've had things on and whatever, and you start to feel like shit. You're like, oh my God, is this what I used to feel like all the time?
Totally. I still live like that.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of people do that every day. And it's sort of like, if you never actually change, you just believe this is just the way it is. This is just how you feel. And until you actually feel amazing, you're like, oh my God, man, I do not want to go back to that. And
it's not really difficult.
It's like touching an electric fence.
Like, a lot of the things we teach, like, it's so interesting when I, you know, interview women in our coaching program, you know, and they've been successful, they just say to me, wow, Kitty, you're right, it's actually not that difficult. Yeah. You know, it's eating adequate calories, you know, eating well-balanced meals. Like, it's so simple. Yeah. You know, whatever the meals frequency that suits you, protein, carbs and fat, you know, re-educating yourself on what are actual nutrient-dense foods like liver and oysters and fruit and dairy and all these foods that the fitness industry tells you, you know, like we shouldn't eat dairy and you shouldn't eat, you know, sugar, and women are scared of fruit, like including these incredible foods in your diet, you know, getting adequate sleep, you know, training and building muscle, you know, trying to like build your stress, resiliency to stress, but then also potentially like looking at your life like we have in the last few weeks going, okay, we've done me, it's actually always me, never you, that just booking in too much shit so that, you know, we've just had no downtime to really recuperate and rest because our work is busy. You know, sometimes saying no to things and asking yourself, why am I really doing that? You know, so is it in alignment with what I want to do, who I want to be? I'm not saying you shouldn't socialise because I think having social connections is important, but it's a balance, right? Like if you're out socialising every fucking day, maybe a bit too much. But, when you pull it, don't drink too much piss. No shit, Sherlock. Don't eat too many mushies. So I think it's just, once you do all this stuff and you learn about these things, you're like, wow, it's, get some sunshine, activity, have some fun, do some things that you enjoy. Like it could be cook. Like I really like cooking. Craig really loves playing his guitar. He loves watching basketball. He's a NBA fanatic. So, whatever it is, might be playing with your kids. It might be cooking. It might be reading. It might be hiking. I don't know. But just some things that you enjoy that fill up your cup. And, when you strip it right back, it's not that difficult. But it's just consistency over time and it's slow, and everyone wants a quick fix. We all want to take the supplement and we want the biohack or the bloody, but it's so reassuring because it's so, once you know this, you're like, okay, well, this is what I have to do to get back on track and feel good again. It's not that difficult.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You become that person. That's right.
It. 3 stages of success.
Yeah.
Knowing, doing,
becoming.
Yep. Cool.
Well, thanks again, Craig, for joining me.
No worries.
Thanks again.
It's a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. Yeah. So, as always, take a screenshot of the episode and share your biggest takeaways on Instagram stories and tag me at KITTYBLOMFIELD. And each month I pick a winner and they get a tub of Saturée Premium Collagen. And we'll be back again next week.